Hello, welcome to Afro-Centric Series. Afro-Centric Series brings you nothing but culture, tradition, religion, festivity, you name it all. Nothing takes you closer to Africa than its own tradition and people. I am Deka, your host, and I do have here my co-host, Ukei.
Hello everyone, and we have all our co-hosts for the day. We are going to go through and introduce ourselves. This time we're talking about intercultural or interracial dating or marriage or relationships. Yes. So I want to go through, say your name, where you're representing, and if you have dated someone from another culture, whatever that means to you, because I know, whatever that means to you, have you dated someone from another culture? Start over here.
Well, my name is Joseph from Ghana, and I haven't dated anyone from different race yet.
Okay.
My name is Ornella. J'ai vécu là. Yes, I have.
My name is Danica, and I'm from America. And I have dated outside of my race.
Well, your host as usual, I have dated all over the world.
Too many places.
I'm Ukei, I'm the co-host, and I will say I have dated outside my culture.
I'm Blanche Mukindi from the Congo, and I've only dated outside of my culture.
Oh.
Yes.
My name is Eliezer Agobaiyel from Ghana. I like to experiment, so yeah, you know. You know what that means. I've tested the waters.
Okay.
I'm Nancy, representing Nigeria, and yes, I have dated outside my culture.
Okay, perfect.
I know. I guess everybody have been in and out of their culture, and I guess the major question here is the compatibility. When you're dating somebody out of your culture, what are the values, what are the conflicts? So, who wants to start from here?
Listen, I want to start.
Okay.
Okay? Because I'm about to say something real controversial, guys. I'm
Yeah.
mixed. My dad is white, and my mom is black from Rwanda, and I am not a big fan of intercultural dating.
Okay.
Even though I really can't date outside my like I have to date outside my culture because there's not many mixed. But
Really?
when people say, "Oh, I just love mixed couples," I just think, okay. I think if it happens, that's beautiful. It happens. You can't help it. It's love. But if you're like trying to date outside your culture, it just doesn't make sense to me. I'm like, for what?
So when you talk about intercultural relationship, are you talking about a specific culture, a specific race, or what?
So, in general, I'm talking about culture. Because race, I guess, you could be of the same culture in a different race. And then that makes it easy. But I feel like at the end of the day, even with this is with my own experience, one culture gets kind of shut out, and then it's hard to get that back. Like what we were talking, in another video we were talking about appropriation, and the disconnect from your culture is very hard, and so that's where I'm.
I think my question to you is, what culture do you identify yourself to?
Man.
It comes when you talk about culture, it comes with a race, it comes with ethnicity. So if you are against interracial or intercultural relationship, then of course, what culture do you identify yourself to? Then it goes down to the other race and ethnicity, and then other cultures.
So I'm not against intercultural dating. I'm just not. I don't think it's the. Because people are like, yes, we should all date within our race, like outside of our races, that we can all have such a... Ugh. Anyway, but I would identify myself with the African culture just because I'm now, and it's changed throughout my life, but now I align my values and everything with I identify with my mom, African, and her values and what she thinks of marriage, all that. But I've only dated black people.
Okay, so basically you will not date anybody who is not African. Correct.
If I can help it. If I fall in love, I fall in love. But if I can't help it, I'm not going to seek out someone who's not black.
Because I'm not sure if everybody will agree with this. Because I know that the connection with just say dating an American and your cultural values, most Africans have values as to what is acceptable and what is not. Which in American society, people are more liberated and they're so lackadaisical about things. So if you're dating an American, things that you hold esteem to you might not, and then it becomes a conflict. So you question your relationship as to if you're being loved, you're being appreciated, and it not necessarily is the person not in love with you or doesn't love you, but it's just the value misplaced when it comes to that. It's not balanced if it comes to that. I don't know about your experiences, or because I know you have dated a Jamaican.
Yeah. Ooh, what was that like? Okay, that was inappropriate. That was wrong.
But we had to.
Not every Jamaican say wagwan.
We had to represent.
I mean, really, like, for me personally, I like experiencing other cultures and just learning a lot. So it wasn't really a big deal for me as far as like culture wise. It's more so for me. It's like race wise that I can't really. I've tried it.
Why not? Oh, tell us about that experience. Since you said
Yeah,
you're not doing it anymore.
I've dated multiple Caucasian men. It was just like different experience. There was like one experience where like he couldn't even tell his family that he was dating someone that was black, and then there is also the side where it's just like they don't understand like simple things of like having simple conversations of like getting pulled over by the cops. Like there's certain things that I have to be aware of, and I'm trying to explain this to you, and you just really don't understand where I'm coming from. You're just like, oh, just like don't do this, and I'm like, it doesn't work that way. Like I just have to be aware of more things than you have to, and just it's like there's a barrier when it comes to like explaining, because some people try to understand, but they will really never really understand what it feels like or where I'm coming from.
So when you dated people with other cultural background, did you feel emotionally fulfilled?
But it was just that
It was just like it's like a learning experience for me. It was never like like it's just completely different world. I don't know. It was just like a learning experience.
Yeah.
If this wasn't on camera, would you say you would want to date somebody with a different background, with a cultural background? Again?
I would date someone outside of my culture. Yes. Just the race thing that I'm like
and,
a little hesitant with.
I want to go over here because we do have an intercultural couple.
Because I was going to direct a question to Anela, but you guys should go. If you guys don't have,
because they were just arguing about Nigeria and Ghana.
Yeah, we do that every day. I feel like growing up in Nigeria, Nigerians are very prideful in our culture, and we like to stick like to our ethnic group. So I'm Igbo. So my mom will not approve of me dating someone that's Yoruba or Hausa.
Tribalism.
Yeah, so they're like, So now that it's outside of Nigeria, it's like, whoa, girl, you're reaching. So, but yeah, being with someone from Ghana has been interesting, because I just feel like Nigerians, like, we're so stuck up. I'm sorry, but we are. And like, we feel like, you know, we're better in this, and Nigeria is like the only way. Nigeria is the only thing in Africa. Like, I feel like that's how I grew up. Like, but learning stuff about Ghana is like, so y'all do that. That's very similar to what we do. Or what you do is totally different. That's weird. So like, we eat different soups, and he's like, why are you eating that with gari? Why don't you eat it with rice? I'm like, ugh, what are you talking about? So it's always something different, whether it's always the language, the food, just like how we grew up. So I just feel like it's something that we have tried to learn. Like, he tries to learn more about Nigeria, and I try to learn more about Ghana. Like, I try to learn the language, and he tries to learn stuff in my language. Like, he'll ask my sister, oh, what does this mean? How do I say good morning? How do I say how are you? And stuff like that. So I just feel like it's the effort that counts. But initially, it was really challenging, just because, aside from the jokes about Nigeria and Ghana, really, like, I was like, oh, I don't know if this Ghanaian dude is really, like, I don't know. I think I should just go back to my Igbo man. But then again, these Igbo men are just, somehow. But I'm glad I kind of, like, ventured off and did something different. I've learned a lot about Ghana. Speak.
What?
Speak, please.
So,
speak.
Right, what's his face?
Nigerians are very headstrong. I have to date them. No offense. I had to learn the hard way. They are very opinionated. If they put their foot down, they put their foot down. right? I had to learn that the hard way, but I'm also very open-minded to learn different things and get to know you, and that's the kind of stuff that interests me. I don't like to do the same thing every day. If I go to work every day and do the same thing every day, I'll kill myself. You know what I'm saying?
So,
no, just
no,
you know what I'm saying? But
yeah.
that's kind of me too. So it's really interesting just learning from a different perspective on how to do things and how people relate to each other. Now I'll say that it's difficult language wise, but especially when we go to a place where it's all Nigerians. No offense, sometimes I feel out of place. I'm like, what is going on here? Like, I'm left alone. Can somebody say hello to me? You know what I'm saying? That's the biggest challenge. But if we're alone together, no problems at all. We just gotta learn. Keep learning just to be what we want to be.
So who have dated an American? Okay, yes. So can you tell me about your experience and what seems to be the conflicts? Because I've had family members date Americans, and I know a little bit about their issues. So I just want to see if it's similar.
So earlier, you mentioned about the cultural differences and everything, and I said that I've only dated outside of my culture because I've only dated American. Not necessarily, I was going to say part of the reason is because that's the culture that I've been submerged in and exposed to, and mostly it's American men that approach me. African men don't approach me. They just look at like, "Hi, you're a pretty sister," and they think I'm stuck up, whatever, but they look from afar. But the person who actually makes the effort to say, "Hey, I would like to get to know you. Can we do this?" are American men. So as long as I remember, I've always, since I started dating American men. The other part of the reason is because I'm Congolese. My dad is Muluba, and they're very tribalistic. Very. They're like, listen, you can't. All the African, very. So in a sense, it was also a rebellious step for me. Like, I'm not gonna sit here. You're not about to. This is America. You know. So with that said, not only have I dated an American man, I have a child with an American man. So we have explored all the way to marriage. And right now where I am, I do not have any desire for the cultural mixage. I'm ready for African men, like, because his complaint at the end of the day and the reason for the why we couldn't integrate was you guys have too many criteria, too many boxes to check in order to arrive to that point or to marriage. It's like, oh, you got to do this and then you got to do this and that, and then he just didn't understand it. I tried to break it down for him, and there was that at some point a cultural discord, and I found that for most American men, they wanted to date me until, like, and after a while it became like, oh, she's African. It became, I almost felt like, you know, like they just like the fact that she's African and she speaks other languages, and it wasn't so much the person that she is. Right. It's just cool to have my girl is African or this and that. Like, I would go, there was this one guy I dated, and everywhere we would go, he's like, say something in French.
That is awesome. Because with most Africans I've had interactions with, and most Black Americans or Americans that I've had, it's just like a checkpoint. Oh, I smashed that African. I kick it with that African. Just like an achievement. So to white people, how Black folks are their fetish, to Black people, Africans are their fetish.
And I even had a man who said, you know, he was well established. He said, I've always wanted to marry African. And I said, why? He was like, just he felt like that was the epitome of his achievement. Like, he's had everything. He just needs to check that last box to be like, I have an African. And he was ready to check all the boxes. But to him, it wasn't so much a respect for culture that it's just another trophy that I can add and show off. And so that's what I've experienced. And for me personally, I have no desires to. It's a headache that I would like to avoid, because constantly having to explain the culture and be like, no, don't extend your hand to my dad when you arrive. Don't just go there. You know, the small things that they didn't understand. They're like, oh my gosh, are you serious? Yeah, take your earring out because they're gonna say, you know, like, and they felt offended to that, and it was little thing consistently. It's just for me easier mentally to just be like, okay, I'm with someone who understands the culture. We can skip the small talk and we can just.
And it's not even like, because interculturally, African dating, at least you understand culture is very important. So if you date another African from a different culture, at least they understand that, okay, this is how you do it. Oh, okay, well, I have to do it that way because that culture is very important. For Black Americans or white Americans, usually it's like, but why?
Right.
Why do I have to? Should they like me for me? No, they should not like me for you. You are not that good. Or no? What's your experience?
Well, I didn't have any issues, but I would say that for me, I don't even want to date Congolese anymore.
Really?
Yes, I feel like the expectation are so high. I just don't want to do it. Like I have to cook and clean, take care of you, and ensure that like there are so many things that I want to get away from. And I'm thinking, as I'm living in America, we should see things differently. I don't want to be part of like the culture, like the African culture stuff. Some things are not beneficial for me as a woman. You know what I mean? So that's why I'm like, like people from my culture.
You know what? I have a friend.
She's a feminist and she believes
believes in equality, and most
But
African men.
I have a friend of mine,
don't.
and I
That's
have
a
a friend
reality.
of mine who's not a feminist but shares the same respect. We speak about this a lot.
Yeah.
She dates a white man, and she said she didn't know until she came to this country that she even had the option to say, okay, today I won't cook. I don't feel like it. Like to her, it was so embedded as part of her culture that she felt that it was what she had to do in order to secure a relationship with a man.
Yeah.
But then when she came here, she's like, wait, you mean a man can actually treat me well and he can take me, and I don't have to do all of this? What? She's like, and she doesn't want to go back to that. But on the same token, I have been on the other side, and I'm like, it has its ups and downs, but I'm just ready. I believe that you can find someone who is not so culturally bent to the traditions and the nuances.
Sexism.
Yes, the
But I can still
sexism.
understand tradition.
Exactly. You can meet somewhere and kind of define it for yourselves.
I think it's one thing to believe it and another thing actually to experience it, because most of African men are raised that way. Even in your household, you see that women or girls are taught to do the dishes, cook, learn how to clean, and the guy is like, can you sweep? Oh, he doesn't want to. You blush, you should do it because you're a woman. And I've been like experiencing that over and over again. I was like, but when you date outside of your race or another culture, they don't expect you to do all those things. If you don't feel like cooking, let's go out.
Yes.
But when you're dating Congolese, you're like, oh, so you feel like you can decide not to cook and we can go out? You take an hour to do your makeup and you don't want to be in the kitchen? I'm like, we're married, first of all. I'm not your wife. So I feel like I am so sick of having the same argument about what I'm supposed to do. The gender roles and stuff like that. I work, you work, get off work, and I'm supposed to cook. And then clean, take your plates in the kitchen, and then do all those things. And I'm exhausted. I'm just so I feel like even Africans that work here always have that expectation that we marry someone who will take care of me, because they had their mom taking care of them. And as much as they can say, oh my God, I'm a feminist too, I understand that, but still, you should be in charge of the kitchen.
That's true, because my parents grew up like that, and I had to tell my mom, I said, you're doing my brother the disservice, because I would wake up, and if I'm hungry, I have to go make my food, but she'll sit there, what do you want to eat? This one wants to eat that, she makes that one, this one. I said, you're not setting them up, because their wives are going to have to do that. I said, you got your husband used to that, but you got to let them figure it out, or let them at least know how to go there and make a pot of water, or whatever, tea, something. So, yeah. I agree.
So, I wanted to add one more thing. And it's not even about doing for yourself, because it's just like for my boyfriend. My boyfriend cooks for himself. He will cook, he knows how to cook, he will clean, but when it comes to my place, he's not doing anything because I'm here.
He's Congolese?
Like, yes. He will not even take his place in the kitchen because it's my job to do it. And women, like, that's the only issue in the relationship. I am just like, okay, I know you're a good person, but why are you doing this to me? You know what I mean? Yes, we would like argue about it. Argue is like understand, but still we are African. I'm like, maybe I'm done with African men. Like,
So I think the value, basically, it's more the value in the upbringing, because he's a typical African man with African value and views. So you liberating yourself, going to another pedestal on the social or the understanding what being a feminist means to you. You're kind of rebelling, but not that that's your nature to rebel, but you're just embracing the civilization. Does that conflict your relationship as to dating your own?
Yes, it does, because what is a value to me might not be a value to me anymore. What is that for most African men will say like, oh, for me, the woman that I wanna marry, she needs to know how to cook, to take care of her man, to be this and that. Maybe the men I wanna marry need to know how to cook too, and take care of the house too, and be a good person too. So I feel like I am conflicted because there are things about my culture that I don't like, that I'm standing against, that I'm saying that no, this needs to stop. And if we're both going to work and making money, we need to both be able to take care of the house. If I'm exhausted and I want to cook today, you should do it because you know how to do it. Just because I have a vagina doesn't mean that I should be in the kitchen like from Friday to Sunday.
Yes.
But I also understand that for men it's hard because we've been raised that way for like over 20 years to just after 2 years maybe of dating, understanding or changing your ways. Because I know that my boyfriend understands that, but for him to change, I think it's like a process. It's gonna take time. Because when we talk, I understand that he gets that. I'm exhausted. I went to work too. And then you went to work, and then we came back home. Why should I go in the kitchen and cook? Like, what is it?
So have you dated anybody out of an African? Yeah.
Yes. And that wasn't an issue. It was cooking. I would cook. It was never like an issue. Maybe it wasn't like we did it like for long enough for me to see other issues about the culture sharing because we both wanted to discover each other's culture and then like, oh, you guys do this. Oh my God, I like this. But yeah, we never been like maybe deep for me to see, oh, you should, because usually when I also date other culture, I have like criteria. I'm not gonna date someone when I know they have like a piercing because he's my dad. He's not gonna, you know. Yeah. I feel like those basic things I already know they don't do it or don't have it, so I never really had that issue. But when I did like my culture, I am not doing that anymore.
Yes.
Because he hasn't said anything about.
Yeah, come on, man.
Generally, no, he comes up with some new technologies and stuff. So let's hear your side.
Well, what I'm gonna say is, what he's saying to all the viewers that haven't watched our previous videos, we have a video on gender roles, and we spoke for about almost an hour on gender roles. So the link is gonna be in the description.
Oh,
you can check it out. But we have a whole video on that. The reason why I don't date, I've never dated outside my my race. When I talk about race, I'm talking about black. Chocolate or melanin or whatever you call it. Chocolate. I haven't. Yeah, because I want my kids. The reason for dating is to lead to some point. If you're dating somebody and you feel like that's not gonna go anywhere, then that's not dating. That's just one night stand or something that a fling or whatever you call it. But I want my kids to look just like me. I don't want to have kids that grow up and say. They have to identify who they are. They have to identify if they are black or white. I don't want to have that. I don't want to have my kids having to choose what kind of race they are. Obamas and all those people, they chose who they what kind of race they want. They want. You know what I'm saying? All the biracial kids, they're like, oh, I look more white than black, so I'm white. And there's a lot of people like there's this rapper called Logic. He looks really, really white.
I was so surprised.
But he's always, I thought he was white. He's always trying to make people accept him for being black, but people don't accept him. He can't say the N-word and all those stuff. Colin Kaepernick, he's biracial.
What?
He want to be black so bad. Fighting for police brutality. Even though he's never experienced it, but he understands what white people are going through. J. Cole is biracial. A lot of J. Cole is really biracial. His mom is white, his dad is black. So all these people, Steph Curry and all these people, so they are always, they are trying to figure out. So those kids are in between. Blake Griffin and all those people. I thought he was white too. They all, trying to figure out, do I go on the right, white side or the black side? I don't want my kids to ever have to, struggle to figure out. So if I get married to, or if I have a kid with a melanin or chocolate lady, they don't have to fight, to figure out what kind of race they are. You know what I'm saying? So I feel like, at the same time, if I have kids, I don't want to tell them, hey, never go with a white lady. Never get married to one.
Right.
I want to give you the space. If you meet a black, maybe they met a couple of black women that are like, why are you coming home late? Maybe a white woman that's like, oh, you came home late. Can you have some sausage or whatever? It's different, you know what I'm saying? So, I'm not I'm not.
But
I'm
the
not
question
trying to.
is, have you tried to date anybody at all that is not?
No, I'm addicted to melanin. That's my point. You know what I'm saying?
But different
I've never
culture.
been.
What about different culture?
I've never even went out with a light-skinned lady.
What about
outside
Ghana?
Ghana?
Culture, like outside of
Or have you only dated Ghanaian women?
I mean, I've.
Congolese.
No, that's.
Or maybe from
You two like
That's.
You can't
like,
let him
I
on
like.
telling that. He'll confuse him.
I'm confused now, but.
He's lost.
Calm down.
Yeah, but I like dark skin, like real dark skin, woman.
So not like me.
So,
Okay.
so living in America, yeah, like what is like the most difficult issues that any of you have had in terms of dating and meeting people?
Like, let me see something. I went to the mall at some point, right? So I was trying to buy this suit. Then the lady that worked over there was white, and she had a baby. Not a baby, like a toddler that walked. So she didn't have what I was looking for. So I was walking to
Melanie.
So she was taking me to a different store that had my size, right? So when we were going, I saw a lot of black women that were walking around. How they look at me like. I saw it, and I was like, let's see the
Wait. You want to do it. You do the white woman's voice. Do it.
Then they saw me walking with a white lady. Automatically, they thought I was married to. I was married to that white lady. So I felt so uncomfortable. Like we worked a lot. Like they were looking at me like all the black women. They were looking at me.
I guess.
I felt so bad, so I'm like, nah, I'm not even going towards white meat. I'll just take goat meat.
To touch on that and to touch on what you were saying, there's a lot of things that my mom has went through that she's talked to us about now that we're older, and it's so much that my dad not only doesn't get, even though he's tried very hard, he will never get. He will never get it. She's had rocks thrown at her. She's had people roll up their windows on her. Yeah. At school, she had to drop out. She had to get out of school because nobody wanted to work with her because of her accent. They said, "I don't understand you." Like we were talking about another time, but and so that's where I'm like, there are things you can't understand. It's almost like having children that are a different race. There's things that you cannot understand, and not that you don't want to understand sometimes. But you cannot, as much as you try. And it's not only that you might understand it on a mental level, like you were saying about your boyfriend. You might understand on an intellectual level, but applying it to everyday life, it's hard. It's hard. And it's work that some people aren't willing to do every day. Even though the minority usually does have to do that work to get to whatever level the other person is. Like the woman does have to put that work to be like, okay, I know it's draining, but I have to do this. Usually is different on the other side, so they don't usually want to. And I will say that my mom has apologized to me before for just having mixed kids. She said, I am so sorry. Sometimes I think about it and I just wish like your life could be different. I'm so sorry for having mixed kids because it must be so confusing. And it is at times. I'm lucky enough that I had enough love in my family, which if you're going to date interculturally, interracially, love is all you need, blah, 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 blah. That's so beautiful. But society, we're not in a vacuum. Right. And as much love as they've given us, at this point, I'm able to say who I am, who I'm not. If someone asks me a question, I'd be like, oh, maybe I don't know, but I don't have to feel bad about it. But a lot of people don't have that.
Issue in a different way. Because even in Africa, when you go down to Africa initially, the mixed race kids were mostly, when you come from a family that is there's classism, they look down upon mixed race kids because they think mulattoes are actually an outcome of prostitution. That's what they see that, because those days when women started doing prostitution and stuff like that, they did it with the white people that come to the coastal. So that's how come they impregnated the black women, and then they had mixed race kids living in Africa. So mixed race kids up to some time were not regarded in society until recently that everybody started being liberated and people actually comes out and tells you, this is my preference, this is what I want. and I choose to marry a white person,
That's true.
if they don't see the mom and the dad together, they assume it's out of that. So intercultural relationship and the discrimination and the prejudice that comes with it has been an ongoing thing, even in the American setting. If a black woman sees you with a white woman, they look down upon you as the man to the woman. Like, you prefer that over that. Like, we're supposed to stick together. We're sticking together, but it's not working for me. So I have to stick somewhere else, because I have talked to Caucasians. I've talked to black folks, and the dynamics of things are really different. Because when you talk to a black person, you need some kind of assurance. I feel like my values doesn't correlate with a black person as opposed to a white person. In a white person, they give you the respect. So your emotions and the assurance you needed are being met either way, halfway. Because in every relationship, you're supposed to compromise. So I feel like we've compromised on that part. With a black person, it's either take it or F it. And those setting lingos doesn't resonate well in some cultures. Yeah. So let's just say, okay, let's kick it and see what's up. Or let's chill and see what's next. What are you saying to me? I don't get that concept. It's either we're doing it or we're not. You get it? So those little bitty things are things that actually conflict in terms of relationship and things like that. I don't know about you guys or other people watching, but if you're in a relationship, you need to feel fulfilled and appreciated. If you don't feel fulfilled, then you're not you're in a one-way street.
I would say that I like saying there's no issue, because I feel like I do not that I don't like dating my culture, but I feel like when it comes to dating other culture, the idea of like, let's kick it and then try where it goes, I'm like, what do you mean? Where we're going with this? Like, for me, when we start talking, I don't want to try and be like, either you're committed to have a relationship with me or not. Like, I need to know it from the beginning. What are we doing? And so for me, that I work.
Set the
But
expectation.
if you feel like you need to kick, okay, bye. It is
Yeah.
over. So that's maybe why I still date my culture, because I feel like
It's
they all
security.
they all values that I maybe necessarily don't agree with, and I think we can work through it, because I think in every society, women have to struggle to get their power back. I would say, or have their voice heard. But I also know that I am not willing to try it, and then let's see how it goes. I don't know if you'll see my girlfriend or no, or I lack the security too. With African men, either we are together or we're not.
Yeah.
It's clear from the beginning. Like,
Yeah. Blanche, you have something to say about that? Oh, you would say? Okay.
There's two things. Starting with what you said, it's like, even like as a Black American, and like, because I talk about this with my friends all the time, we're frustrated with men in general about what are we doing. I don't want to like question either you want me, there's a commitment or not. Even like not even looking at culturally, it's just like, maybe it's an American thing where it's just kind of like, look, okay, I see you want to, like, we've gone to the conclusion where like, don't ask me to come over your house. Like, you want to date me, then we're going to date. That like, there's no in between. This is what we're doing. So I feel like with that, it's also just kind of like, that can also be to a point, to an extent, generalized just a little bit, not just as far as like culturally, but just having that frustration between like just men in general, or like American men. I was like American men. For sure.
African men will let you down.
I was like American men, and then the second thing is dealing with, as far as like what you said, when you see a white woman walking with a Black man, and I'm just saying a lot of people are frustrated or a little bit mad, partly because of we're supposed to stick together, but I don't necessarily have that standpoint, because like you said, if you love person, fine, whatever. But there's also a point to where a lot of times when people date outside of their race, specifically within the Black community, they down.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
They feel like
the
women
now.
like, like, well, Black women don't do this, and so I'm not dating y'all, or y'all too much to hassle, or this and that. I'm not gonna deal with that.
And then
so
the
it's
white
like
women get it on it too.
So like that's also a thing that kind of makes it where it's just like, obviously you don't know the person, so you don't know their story, but it also kind of makes it seem like, do you hate yourself? Like,
we don't know your story, but do you hate yourself?
Yeah.
For me, in regards to the American men, I've never had that problem of let's see where this goes. Why? Because I've always made it a point to define it from the get-go. If you come in with, to me, like I had a guy who was like, what's up with me and you? I said, what's up? You can come and chill. What does chill mean? Oh, you know we're both grown. No, I don't know. Speak your mind, define it. That's exactly, that's my approach. I'm just like, lay it down. We don't have time to guess, to assume we're adult. And I've never had that problem because I've always made it a point to voice, I know what I want. And on that token, you just reminded me, the reason I dated was American men is because I had a bias against African men, which is the bias that they're so like, women should be doing this. And I was like, you can't put me in a box. That was my thing. You cannot put me in a box. And most African men were like, you're too American. Because I'm like, some days I won't cook. I remember a man, no, I won't. A man came. He came to my parents' house. I was still staying with my parents. And he said, today, I want Blush to make me some fish and some fufu. And I understood the language to mean that he wanted me to marry his son, so he wanted to see how I cook. I was like, well, I want your son to build me a house. If it's gonna be like that. First, if we're getting like that, like if you want to get all technical, you know, and they were like, my mom was like, that was me, my mouth. So right. I don't have time for that.
Yeah, Prince had a question.
Prince, you have it. Anyway, our camera guy, Prince, he's doing a good job. And with
But I do have a question.
Okay.
Yeah, I do have a question for all of you. So, whenever I had a child with an American man, a lot of my aunts like cried and whatever. And one thing that was constantly stated was, "Oh my gosh, if he's Black American, you could have at least had a white man." Why is that? Why is that the thought was? No, I want to ask each person. Why is that they were like, at least dating outside of your race is better than getting a Black American. We would prefer you have African, but if not.
So everybody's going to respond to her question, but we're not going to interrupt. We'll give everyone a chance to answer specifically because I believe everybody have an answer to that question.
True.
So let's start.
We feel like we feel like Black people. We feel like white people. Any white person, right? They'll say that I wanna have a Black girlfriend. That means that white person has gone out his way to research and did a lot of research, right? Because he's going outside of his race, right? But a Black person can see an African lady and like, oh, he got a fat let me just go in and just do that. So white people usually did their race, right? So for him to go outside of his race, that means he's for real.
Wait, just one question. Not a rebuttal. A question. Are we saying these answers in what our parents are, what they're saying, or are you saying that as your
opinion? Because the question was that because we make part of Africa,
right?
So the question is, why is it that when she has a child with a Black American, Africans will say why not a white person?
Our parents believe that too. They see that too, right?
But you believe
that's one. I see that. I believe it.
Okay.
I believe that, and from the beginning, it's a long story. From the beginning,
don't give the story. Just answer. I just need everyone to have that.
No, listen. Africans. If you grew up in Africa, we had some kind of inferiority complex to white people. That's true, if you have a kid with a white person, that's like crazy. You have white kids. Because Jesus was white and all those kind of stuff, all those stories. So I'm just.
That's what his parents are saying. Yeah.
Of course, yeah. So the parents say, "Oh, you haven't kid with a Black, white person." That's crazy. But that's another thing. That's a major thing.
At least Jesus was white.
Right. And another thing, like what I was saying, for a white person to go out his way to have a kid with a Black person, a Black woman, that's crazy. That's like. It's not, you know what I'm saying? So your parents see
the double standard in that.
Because I wouldn't know. We can't.
But if it was the other way around, a Black person going to have a kid with a white woman, that would be a different issue. But for a white guy to go have a kid,
you mean the sacrifice they put on Ella?
Why? I think it's too. Okay, what's the question?
No, the question is, why is it that we Africans look down upon an African person who have a child with a Black American?
For me, I think my parents would have reacted the same way, but I think it's for two reasons. First, because of the stereotype we have toward African American. They all see like they get arrested all the time, they're all in jail, they don't go to school, they don't do anything with their lives, and then we Africans were fighters. We come from like
warriors.
Different background. We come in America with an accent. Sometimes we don't even know English. We learn, we try to go really far and further in life when we see African American coming here, having all those opportunities, not doing anything with it. So I feel like it's more about the stereotype, because the person might be a good person because of what they've seen. They're just like, African American. And the second thing I think is the identity. So African Americans are still trying to find themselves, and they don't really like. I'm a little bit from Ghana. I don't know, and then the culture is just so different. I feel like a white person would be more acceptable compared to African American. So I think that would be the two reasons why.
Oh, yeah. So okay.
So if do you think that just answer? Do you think that your family would have
an issue
if you had a child with African, or if you had a child with a white person? How would that dynamic play out? Would they care either way?
No, I'm doing that because like when I was growing up, like my family, because I spoke differently or did different things. Oh, you gonna date a white guy? Like that was just kind of and so I don't think just in general they would care as between like African and or black. It's more so like at that age they kind of already wrote it off, but I feel like bringing it
it's already
like now, now it's just like because I know they don't mean any harm by it, but don't bring no white woman home, like just like general stuff, but like it would be definitely like, oh, so
what would be the problem of a white woman over a black African or a white man?
It's more so like I guess. Like I said, we have this when we look at people when they do date outside, it's because they down their own, their own. And so it's like, I'm looking at it as, okay, so why? Because I've had family members that'll be like, well, I date a white woman because they listen, they do this. And so it makes it where it's just kind of like, I don't want, like, that's why, like, I look at it, like I said, you're going to love who you love, but it would be an issue of reason why.
Right.
Why are you doing this? Not necessarily, oh, okay, they're outside of the race. It's more so why. What's your reasoning?
My response falls under classism. In Africa, we don't have anything like racism. We have classism, pedigrees, and stuff like that. Yes. Yeah. So when we look into that, and we always want to be on top, like how they have the white supremacy in Africa. So if an African move here, and they still want to be the classes as they are, they look down upon white people. So on the hierarchy chain, the white person is equal to them because they are of the same status. 2 is based on mental health. In the fact that most of you people, like most Black Americans came here through the system. However, they got here and they still, I think somebody said identity. They've not been able to identify themselves. So psychologically, they're not sound enough to be with our kind. So it's kind of,
right, to be with our kind.
Because it becomes an issue. So then, of course, they go like, okay, how is the child going to grow up? How is his environment going to affect him? How is his parents or his dad's background going to affect the child? What's going to come out of that child? As opposed to, if you get married to a white person or have a white kid, it comes with different privileges.
Right.
And you can attest to that. The upbringing of the child is going to be totally different and similar to our class boundaries in Africa.
Yeah.
So they automatically look down, irrespective of what they see on TV as the portrait, the stereotypes that's being portrayed, they still want to fall in that category of feeling superior and looking down upon black folks and their personal encounters as well. So I'm not sure if that answers, but we can also say no.
I think that's true, absolutely. I think it's about feeling superior, but also I do think that they look at what privileges you'll get. What privileges will they get?
Correct.
If you just date a black American, you're not getting you're dating out, so you're breaking tradition to give them no advantage.
Correct.
What's the point of putting more hardship on someone with no advantage? That doesn't make any it doesn't make sense. And I feel like Africans are very strategic. Yes. Everything they do is very logical and makes sense. Yeah. So if you're doing something, even their traditions, they make sense. It's not emotional. So when love comes in, it's like, what? What
how is it
love
benefiting
got
you?
to
How
do?
is it benefiting
Got to do with it? Yeah.
You
like,
know,
what
that's how come it started with child betrothal
exactly.
in Africa. They even marry kids to rich people to benefit the family.
Exactly.
So if you're going to, if I'm going to bring you all the way from Africa to America and come in,
then what's the point if you're gonna
you get you see? But it would be different if a Black American moved from here to Africa. Then of course they know he's well culturally inclined, he has the resources, and he's disciplined, and his presentation will be as different as the one we see
because he's
here.
going out of his way
and even like I will say the reason. So my dad was not necessarily accepted when they got married, but he was much more accepted than a Black American probably because also they just thought he had money. And he did not. He was poor. He was poor. But they really thought, oh, money. You come from America. And especially because you're white. You got money.
A white person is synonymous with wealth.
Exactly. And it's not true, but that's
I
what it
feel
is.
like back home, they don't know the difference between African American, like a Black person, and a white person. For them, it's like, as American, it's American.
Right.
So that's really
So if I was your parent answering this question, right? This is exactly how I put it. Living in this society, right? Africans are very, very family oriented, right? We live in a circle, right? So keep it in a circle. By bringing an African man, you're only making the circle bigger, right? But if you're gonna step out of your comfort zone, then make sure you go all the way out. Don't go halfway. If you go halfway, then I'm gonna have to answer for it. But if you go all the way out, I'll be like, that's her preference. Leave it alone.
You see.
Oh, that's like why wouldn't you prefer an African man? Why did you?
Oh my God,
they're all that.
I could see that. I could see that.
My mom would probably tell me if I was gonna rebel, why don't rebel well? Like, you know.
Oh, hey.
Because my mom was like, why Ghanaian? You might as well go white. So it was kind of like,
yeah.
I
So
will.
I guess we all answered the question, irrespective of our opinions, but we all a representation of African culture. So does that gives you a little bit?
It does help in light because the comment came from different. It wasn't necessarily my parents. My parents have always been respective of my decision, and it was mostly the aunts and the they're like wait and it was different stuff, stereotypical. It was exactly and then it wasn't until they learned they're like, oh wait, he's actually responsible and he's respectable and he's willing to do everything. They're like, oh wait, so he's not bad. Wait, it's actually a good. And then what deterred him was then the lack of acceptance and then the criteria, and it just became a discouragement with it because he did everything he could, and there was still that resistance from my side of the family, and it was just like, okay,
And you know what I think? Oh, go ahead. No.
So what I have learned in the American setting, in dating anybody out of your race or out of your, keep it between you and the person. When it's time to get married and to go home, you do that, because at the end of the day, when you keep few people in your relationship, the better it is. So I'm not going to put everybody into my relationship. So when I see people post, okay, this is my boo on social media, so like, good luck. Let's see how it like. Yeah, my relationship is never public. It's never known to anybody because I don't have the assurance. I don't have the security. It's not going. That's how. So even with family, you have to be certain. You get married, you're out. My mom is not coming to live with me and my partner. No grandma, no auntie, no nothing. It's just me. That is my family that I'm forming. You formed yours. You had your choice. It's done. We talk on the phone. I come to this. That's why I also, when I go to Africa, like most Africans, by just a look, do not identify me as an African. And then here, when I talk, they do not identify me as an American either. So I'm just like a lost cause. But at the end of the day, I'm setting my rules. Yes.
You might as well enjoy
That's why my thing is like, you're just gonna be like, boom, oh, she's married. What happened? Nobody knows anything.
Me too. They don't identify me as an African.
No, you want to be identified as.
They don't identify me as an African.
I can't.
Does anybody have anything to say before? Because I think we're running out of time.
I just wanted to clarify one specific thing that I don't mind cooking. I enjoy. But it's not my job.
Watch the video in the description.
I'm so mad that I missed that.
Right.
So, like, as we say, you know, we're just representing other people's views and thoughts. It might not solely be our views and thoughts about it, but we just want to keep the discussion going. And if you have not actually subscribed to this page, tell them. Y'all, tell them.
Subscribe!
Thumbs up.
Subscribe, like, share, comment, and it's this year, 2018, has been a fun-filled one. Some of us have hustled. We've gone through it all. We're hoping for the new year to be good for all of us here, including you, our viewers, and we all want to say Happy New Year! So, once again, Afro-Centric Series brings you nothing but culture. And what? Tradition? Well, you never get close to Afro-Centric people. We're out of here.
We're out of here, of course.
You've been gone, it's an empty home. Come on back where you really belong. You are always welcome home, welcome home. You've been kept down for much too long. Stand up, please, and say I am free. Don't forget